Throughout the series of Berserk, there have been very few that have been able to prove a challenge enough for Guts, those being Zodd, Griffith, and Boscoon. Yes, Boscoon, the commander of the Purple Rhino Knights and the most powerful warrior of Chada. During his fight against the Hundred-Man Slayer, Guts himself stated that Boscoon was a far greater threat than the 100 men combined. To that dawns the question, would Boscoon be able to challenge Zodd the same way Guts did during their first encounter? Before his official debut, whenever Boscoon was talked about, he was referred to with great respect or fear, even by the likes of the Man of the Hawk. His reputation was confirmed to be true and made even more terrifying during the battle for Doldry, where Guts comments to himself that he might not be able to make it out of the battle alive. Right at the get-go, Guts immediately goes for Boscoon, Boscoon almost coming out untouched. Due to battlefield complications, their fight was postponed. After all disadvantages and a few unfortunate knights had been eliminated, nothing stood between Guts and Boscoon. The two commanders clashed, and after a few exchange of blows, none of them seemed to be letting up. They were evenly matched. After a few minutes had passed, the two were nearing their limits, Guts getting the shorter end of the stick. As Guts prepared for another strike, he acknowledges the fact that Boscoon was extremely tough, to the point that he was tougher than the 100 men combined. He also accepted that he wouldn't be able to survive if he didn't give it his full strength. A slight error would have caused death. For a slight moment, Guts almost compared the situation he was in to fighting a demon, but changed his mind upon remembering the true might of the apostle. With his hope and confidence restored, he charges at Boscoon, ready to settle things with one final strike. But, in an unfortunate twist of fate, Guts' sword was destroyed and he was thrown off his horse, barely able to keep on his feet. All hope was lost. Guts had no way to defend himself, and he had no chance of escape. Death was fast approaching. Despite the efforts of a few comrades to save him, nothing was stopping Boscoon from getting Guts. But, in another twist of fate, Zodd granted him another chance, and a sword was brought before his feet. In the nick of time, Guts manages to launch a counterattack, decapitating Boscoon, surviving the match by the skin of his teeth. Now that we have a general understanding of Boscoon's strength, is it enough to defeat Zodd? There are a few points to hint that Boscoon might be able to. During the fight, when Boscoon was about to finish off Guts, Guts was only able to survive due to Zodd's assistance. This is a very important moment because this is a Guts that has met and even traded blow with Zodd. Even if we take into account that Guts' sword had been extremely dulled, the fact that Boscoon had enough speed to match Guts blow for blow means that Boscoon can challenge Zodd in the speed department. The power department though, that's a whole different issue altogether. This is because of the fact that Guts' sword had been dulled from facing 100 men earlier, and technically he wasn't at his best. But let's just consider one thing. He was able to break Guts' sword, a sword which was able to cut through Samson's armor even when dulled, which might I add was 3 times thicker than regular armor. Not only that, even when Zodd fought Guts, Zodd was unable to break the sword. So according to this, and sprinkling a bit of highball, if Boscoon was able to put enough power out into a well-timed strike, he'd be able to damage Zodd. The final thing to talk about is Boscoon's speed. In the fight against Zodd, Guts was zipping and zooming around to avoid Zodd's lethal blows. Personally, I think that Guts was able to dodge as well as he did because of his lack of armor. But let's not forget that pesky sword which weighs him down just a little. But comparing Guts' sword to Boscoon's armor, the weight difference is at least 3 times. And just because Boscoon fought on equal footing with Guts doesn't mean he's as fast. Throughout the fight, Boscoon was on horseback. So even if he may be as fast as Gas, he is nowhere near agile. So, what does this crucial factor spell for Bosco's fate against Zodd? Well, he checks out in both the strength and sword play and just barely handles himself in the speed department. So in the end, all that means is that he will be able to fight Zodd, but he won't last half as long as Guts did. Thank you for watching to the end of this video, and I just want to politely ask one question. If Boscon had survived, would he have the potential to be the second Guts?